football lecture. We're back. Ah. Hello, hello. How is everyone? Hello, Aftons. It's been a while since I had your company gracing my stream. And hello, Mike Haney. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm doing better. Considering I had... Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm doing better considering having had COVID for a while. Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry, Aftons. Yeah. It sucks not being able to have one of your best friends show up to a thing they enjoy watching. Alright. Let's... You know what? Let's start with one that's pleasant, and then we can knock out a couple of unpleasant ones before we're left with just pleasant ones. Receive pets already! Ah! Ah! Excuse me. Should probably pop in a cough drop. Ah, there we go. Hobie Cabby. Right, we were going to do sleepover. And then get a couple of less pleasant ones out of the way.
Okay.
Alright, kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time, as if it had heard your mom's words. You halted your game and looked over. Mom was almost done setting the table. She was walking around the mahogany wood in the process of putting down cutlery. Mommy was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred and uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Finally, I'm ready to eat. Then she cast a sly glance in your direction. You recognize that look. Last one to the table is a rotten egg. I haven't, but it was too late. Lizzie had already bolted towards the kitchen. Throw a cushion! Grabbing one of the cushions from the sofa, you launch it towards her. It hit her in the back of the legs, but it was too soft to do anything of real consequence, and she merely brushed the attack off with a scowl. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mom moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again! Because you cheated. I didn't cheat. You ran before me. Yeah, because that's how racing works. The one who starts first wins first. That isn't true. That sounds like something a rotten egg would say. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips, then looked over your shoulder. Cove, you can be the tiebreaker. Was that a real race that I totally won? You blinked. You hadn't noticed what he had been doing during this little event, which wasn't much. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, the arm with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. Oh, excuse me. Thank you. It felt sort of strange to see him still here so late. Thank you, Aftons. Tonight, Cove had come to your house for a sleepover. Your mom's and his dad had planned it a few days ago. You weren't surprised. You had begged your moms to invite Cove over one day. They promised that they would. Now they had made good on their word. You looked forward to it since the moment you found out. And you even helped Mom search the storage room for a sleeping bag and extra bedding to prepare for his visit. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's question, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her. Not that Lizzie would make that easy.
Come on!
Well, did I win or what?
No.
What? I don't think you won. How come? It's not my fault Diana's slow. Cheating's cheating and cheating's never win. Or cheaters never win.
You always pick her side!
Cove snuck a shy peek at you before answering her. I pick her and she picks me. Aww. You're a couple of rotten eggs then. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or a rotten egg. You're each farm fresh. Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Alright.
Now listen to Mom and come sit at the table for dinner. All three of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you when Mom turned her back. Two can play at that game. You stuck your tongue out right back. When Mommy pointedly cleared her throat, though, the two of you stopped. Your parents brought the last of the food. Then they took seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He stood up from his spot on the floor, but he hadn't made a move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Slowly, he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, One free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last two were on the other side of where your moms were sitting. Sit next to me. Cove's gaze met your red eyes. I mean, I wanted only one to be red, but that's not an option in this game. It's an option in the second game, but only the demo's out for that. You smiled. Briefly, he grinned back. He walked over, pulled out the chair next to yours, and sat down. You were glad he wanted to sit with you. You just needed to know it was okay. Now that everyone was situated, Mommy began to pass out plates.
Okay.
Digging kids, I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all the veggies.
Ugh.
Yes, Mom. Each person at the table served themselves, except for one. Cove hesitated again. He fidgeted with his hands clamped on the top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye, at least. That's pineapple chicken. Want to try some? Not really. Sorry. By then, your mom said no that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey?
Well,
Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow. Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating, then she spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink. That's what happens if you miss a meal. Elizabeth, that's not true. You know that. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with a fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this.
Oh, shoot.
I knew I should have asked your dad what your favorite foods were. It's alright, Lonnie. Maybe he'll find a new favorite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. I think you would like the pineapple chicken. It's yummy. He ultimately trusted your judgment. At your suggestion, Cove carefully spooned rice and chicken onto the plate. You saw that he took more of the grilled pineapple than any of the vegetables. You nodded, pleased, and your mom's let it slide. At first, Cove poked at the food. Clearly he was apprehensive to eat something new. But he took a few exploratory bites.
right?
It's good, huh? Isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still speared more meat with his fork and dated, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mommy grinned at his words, satisfied even though it wasn't exactly a glowing commendation. Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. Don't be mean to your friend. We're not friends.
Oh.
Mommy floundered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. You weren't surprised by Cove's declaration. The more you got to know him, the more you realized he wasn't the type of kid to keep his opinions to himself. Yeah. In the end, you suppose that if the two of them didn't want to be friends, you couldn't force them to be. You hoped Cove thought of you as a friend. When you gave Cove a look, he returned a small smile, and that made you feel good even though you were still unsure. Your mommy looked at Mom and only got a shrug.
No.
Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such thing as a weird person and a non-weird person. There's just disparate perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to someone, anyone. But Pam, Mommy tried to whisper exclusively to Mom. Her attempt to make it audible over the sounds of clanging silverware meant you caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends, he said so. As parents, we can only try, and sometimes we fail. Not all kids will be thick as thieves. Now, less talking and more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But Mom! No buts. We've talked to you about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. For now, you don't get to stay up late. Lizzie sulked, muttering under her breath about, gee, how I wasn't right. You laughed at Mom's phrasing. You couldn't contain your snorts. Something the matter, Diana? Mom says no buts. I didn't think that was how it was meant. I guess I am playing as a girl who is only 8 years old. Lizzie scoffed and rolled her eyes, unimpressed by such crude words. Mommy snickered along with you, however. That's right, no butts allowed here. You'll have to get rid of yours. No, I need it. The two of you continued to chuckle, and Cove even cracked a smile. Children. I'm surrounded by children. The rest of dinner passed by uneventfully. Cove was silent for most of it, even when you nudged him and tried to get him to talk. All too soon, the table was cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered to your bedrooms. Mom finished tucking you in and kissed your brow just as Mommy poked her head into the room. All ready for lights off, you two? You were lying comfortably in your bed, the blankets hiked up under your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Mommy set up the sleeping bag on the floor for Cove, just beside your bed. He'd already wiggled inside. We are.
Good night.
Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mom tweaked your nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and left. Mommy took her place, sitting on the edge of your bed.
Sweet dreams.
Aww. She pressed a soft kiss on your forehead. You giggled as strands of her hair fell forward and tickled you. Mommy smiled down affectionately at you, then moved her attention to Cove, who watched from his spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high and he shakes his hands like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. He keeps doing that until sometimes he drops me on my bed, or other times he lowers me down and we pretend like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited when talking about the nightly ritual he and his dad shared. He seemed to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. But I don't want to do that here.
Aww.
How fun! Though, I think you're right that it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be a soft enough landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Diana's other mom. But I'm the nicer one. Just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up.
Take care.
Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb. What? The what? The frick is a door jamb? Screw it, I'm Googling it. I'm too curious. It literally just means the side of the door frame. Why does that need its own dedicated word? Ah. That was weird. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested a hand on the light switch and looked at you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs... frack! Don't let the bed bugs bite. With a last smile, Mommy turned off the lights and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. I mean, I guess. As someone who tried briefly to be an author, I suppose you're right. Mommy turned off the lights and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. You listened to her footsteps fade as she walked down the hallway. But even as the sound vanished, excuse me, by the way, even as the sound vanished, your eyes stayed open. It was just you and Cove now. You hardly knew what to do with yourself. You were happy that Cove was spending the night, but you couldn't shake the conversation from earlier at the dinner table. Cove had said that he and Lizzie weren't friends, but that wasn't the part that was bothering you. You couldn't stop from wondering what he really thought about you. Ask him! Ask him, ask him, ask him! Do you like me? Cove didn't speak for a few moments, and you wondered if you'd startled him with the question. The longer the silence stretched, the more uneasy you felt about his impending answer. When you heard his voice next, it was almost so quiet you had to strain your ears to catch the words. Do you think we're friends, Diana? You wrinkled your nose at the question being redirected back at you. The way Cove had asked it made you think that maybe he hadn't even questioned it before, and now more than ever you wondered if you should have kept quiet instead. We're extra special friends. Oh. I don't know what that means, but I think it's true. Really? Yeah, maybe this is what it means to be best friends with somebody. You're right, Cove. Nobody is a better friend to me than you are. Thanks. You smiled to yourself at the thought, knowing that even if by some small chance you were wrong, the two of you were happy together. That was good enough for you. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could only see a faint outline of a lump under the covers. Cove? What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything, since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard a sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up. Your eyes had gotten used to the low level light, so you could see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag, wobbled towards your side table, and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second, then pulled his hand out. Instead of his glasses, though, he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew, even without reading the title, which one it was. That was one your moms would read to you. It was special. Be careful, that's mine. Cove glanced over at you guiltily. Sorry, it looked cool. The compliment afforded your special book made you forget your irritation. At least... Oh, I didn't mean to be irritated! Oh well. It is really cool.
Oh?
Oh yeah? What's it about? It's a story about a squire who wants to become a king and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but... Mommy reads it to me. She uses different voices for every character. Some of them were really silly too. There's lots of characters and they all have good lines, so it's fun. Cove looked excited by your words. He flipped the book over and focused on the backside summary. His interest in it was only spurring your own. You were reminded of the hours you'd spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it, or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and pictures inside. You glanced out the window. The moon was high in the sky. I want to read it. You wanted to read the book with Cove. You climbed out of the bed and padded over to your side table. You opened it and rummaged around, pushing aside stuffed toys and crayons. Cove called out to you in a confused whisper. What are you doing? You didn't respond, letting the suspense build instead. You let out a quiet cry of victory when you found what you were looking for. You jumped back onto the bed before any hidden boogeymen could catch you unaware. Cove continued to watch as you wiggled your way beneath the blanket you discarded earlier. You pulled it up over your head. What's? Shh! Get under here already! Bring the book too! After a minute, the bed dipped as Cove got on it. Then the blanket shifted. You fiddled with the flashlight in your grip, feeling for the switch. With a click, the small space flooded with a bright light. Cove sputtered, putting a hand up to shield himself from the beam. Taste the beam! Ooh, I'm yellow. Move it somewhere else. Oops. You tilted the flashlight so that it shone directly on his face, giggling. Hey! You shifted again, making it shine down. You adopted an innocent expression when Cove scowled at you. Now we can read, and my moms won't know. I do this all the time. I always pretend to sleep when Mom or Mommy check on me, and I've never been caught. It's fun. Excuse me. Do you want to try? Cove nodded, pleased by his straightforward response. You placed the book between you and flipped it open to the first page. Meanwhile, he laid down on his belly and shuffled closer, picking up the flashlight to shine it on the pages. His face was illuminated with a warm glow. You mirrored his position, leaning in so you could see the book better. Your foreheads nearly brushed until you shuffled back a comfortable distance. I want to narrate it. You loved it when Mommy read to you. Why not read it as loud as you dare to this time of night? You didn't even need to study the page for long. There was once a squire who dreamed of knighthood. All they wanted to do was to do good. Cove was taken aback when you began to recite the words by heart. You even pronounced knighthood properly, a word which had given you grief in the past. His reaction encouraged you to keep going. Soon you got to an exciting part. The Squire and the Dragon's first meeting. Squire walked up to the fearsome dragon. Their borrowed... Bah. Throat too dry. Their borrowed sword in one hand and a torch in the other. Her red scales danced in the light like flickering flames. Could you say the dragon's lines? Do you need to get your glasses? No, my head hurts if I don't wear my glasses for a while. I can kind of see things alright, but I don't know any voices. It's okay, it's fun anyway. Let me just... Cove read the page, his mouth moving silently with the words. Eventually he nodded to himself and spoke them out loud. Who goes there? Roared the dragon. Who dares enter my cave? It was your turn. You went into the squire's famous speech. The next time you looked up from the page, your gaze landed right on Cove. His eyes were following the text, a soft smile lighting up his features. A lock of his hair fell into his field of vision, but he gave it no notice. He was lost in the story. You started when Cove caught you watching him. He raised a questioning eyebrow. What? Nothing? Cove shot you a strange look, but he went back to the book. You did too, even as your eyelids started to droop. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed in your pillow. Your pajamas were sticking to you and your mouth was dry. Slowly you raised yourself onto your elbows. You yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, planning on getting water from the kitchen when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze. Then you remembered you weren't alone in your room tonight. Cove, that you?
Yeah.
You shifted and felt something cylindrical pressed against your thigh. You fumbled for it, the familiar weight of the flashlight pressed into your palm. You turned it on. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I keep waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You'd helped your mom's redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's not that it's bad. I just always sleep in my bed in my room. That made things a little clearer. It wasn't anything you'd done. Cove couldn't sleep in a new place. He wondered how long it took for Cove's bedroom in his new house to not be weird to him. Probably a while. I'm gonna go. What? That shook off the last of your doziness. He was going to walk outside back to his own house this time of night, all by himself? He noted your shocked expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in, and I've gone outside late before, and I have to go. You don't have to. You couldn't explain why you couldn't let him leave. You just knew you didn't want him to go yet. Cove looked frustrated, though you got the feeling it wasn't at you specifically. Yes, I do. You are at a stalemate. Frowning to yourself, you studied his sleeping bag. Was there a way you could make him more comfortable? If Cove didn't like how weird your room was, maybe he would feel better if he had something more familiar nearby. Oh! You went to your bed and grabbed your blanket, and spread it over the floor beside the Cove's sleeping bag. He watched as you did, blinking. You're sleeping on the floor? Yeah, next to you. If that doesn't help, I'm out of ideas. Is that okay? Uh-huh. You spy a small smile playing on his lips. We can try it. But if it doesn't work, I want to go home still. Deal. You grabbed your pillow and a few plush toys for good measure as Cove picked up his pajama bottoms and folded them, then set them aside. You tossed the items in your hands onto the blanket, completing your task. The two of you stood and looked down at your handiwork. Are you gonna change it to your pajamas? No, I can sleep in this. There wasn't anything left to say. In unison, you both laid down side by side. Cove put his glasses aside and got into his sleeping bag. You made yourself as comfortable as you could, wrapped in the fuzzy blanket. The floor was hard and unforgiving against your back. Not at all as comfy as your bed, but you didn't mind it much. You had fallen asleep on the floor before. What mattered was if it helped. You swiveled your head to observe him. Is it better? He poked the top of his face out of the sleeping bag and mumbled bashfully, "Ah, no, I have to sleep first. I can't tell if I can now." That wasn't a satisfactory enough answer for you. Wake me up if it doesn't work. You can go after, okay? Cove looked confused by the request, but he nodded anyway.
Okay.
I will. You smiled. At least he won't disappear without you knowing. You settled in for bed on the ground, closing your eyes and waiting for sleep to come. You wanted to give Cove a chance to get comfortable. Surprisingly, he decided to keep talking. This was my first sleepover. I guess. You opened your eyes to see him staring up the ceiling. His seafoam hair spread out around his head like he'd just gotten shot. Really? I've had sleepovers before. Sometimes I'll go to friends' houses. Shiloh slept over a few times too. And other stuff. Cove remained quiet. The silence stretched between you, but it didn't feel awkward right now. You didn't feel the need to break it immediately. How was it? Or is it? It's not bad. I liked reading your book. You did? I kind of thought you weren't having fun. You didn't really say anything when we were eating. I didn't know what to say. Oh. Now you're the one who didn't know what to say. You just laid there, and so did Cove, for what felt like a long time. Hey, Cove? There was no answer. You leaned on your elbow to see Cove's eyes closed, his lashes fanned over the apples of his cheeks. What? That's an interesting turn of phrase. His chest raised and lowered with every inhale and exhale. He was fast asleep. You smiled to yourself. Good night. You rested on your back and closed your eyes. Soon enough, you were lulled to sleep by the gentle sound of Cove's breathing. The next morning, you were woken by the sound of Mom's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Diana, wake up. It's time to get up and at 'em. The sun was peeking through your curtains, and you rubbed your eyes as they adjusted to the new light.
How are you?
Is everything okay down there? You blinked at Mom for a moment, confused, before remembering you had slipped down on the floor next to Cove. He was just waking up, yawning loudly. His hand lightly hit your face as he stretched out. Cute. When you moved away, you groaned a little at the pain in your shoulder from having slept on the hard ground. It definitely wasn't as comfortable as your cozy bed, that's for sure. As someone who used to sleep on benches, yeah, it really ain't. Not due to homelessness, before any of y'all get the wrong idea. I just... Sometimes when I was out with my family, or, like, waiting for something, I would just take a nap on a bench. I was a weird teenager. Cove wasn't feeling good, so I stayed with him. You mumbled and glanced at Cove, who rubbed his eyes sleepily. He didn't say anything. Still, you were glad he decided to stay the night in the end. When you looked at Mom next, she was smiling at you both. Mommy was standing in the doorway behind her, doing the same thing. Alright kids, we'll be downstairs making breakfast. Don't take too long coming down. She said something to Mommy on her way out that made the two of them giggle. Did you sleep okay? You stood up and stretched your legs, watching Cove fumble with the bedside drawer to pull out his glasses. I think so. You look a little tired there, kiddo. He had been able to relax when it was just the two of you in the night. Now that a new day had come, he gave you the impression of feeling out of place again. But the smile on his face had a gentle light. Thanks, Diana. You're welcome. Even if it couldn't be a perfect time, it was worth it. Posture check. And hydrate. Ah. And pets. Ah. And another posture check. Okay. It's fine. Thank you for the redeems, Aftons. You are a good friend. Even if it couldn't be a perfect time, it was worth it. Oh, I don't have the game window selected. There we go. Cove didn't stay for breakfast. He really was ready to go at that point. Mommy called to make sure Mr. Holden was up before Cove went home. Excuse me. I'm blue, dabble-dee-dabble-die. He gave you a small wave as he left, thanking your moms for letting him stay, before he disappeared through the front door. You smiled at the sight. Cove's very first sleepover had come to an end. Alright, now some less pleasant. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of the birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your moms had left the two of you along with Lizzie to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside in the afternoon, at least according to Mommy. So your sister was starting to get impatient waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had had trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt that it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown eyes and her smile spread wide across her face. Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outdoors anyways. They're always inside and telling everybody they're too busy to play.
Why?
Duh.
I said why, and it'll be fun. Duh. What do they do inside that we don't? Besides use the phone a lot. Childhood innocence. Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decided to ignore Cove.
What do you think?
Diana, what do you think? Do you want to? I bet we could come up with something else. But that's what I'm going to do, and it's not as fun when I play pretend adults by myself. Do you do that a lot? What's it to you? Looking at Lizzie, it seemed like Cove felt he could understand where she was coming from, and he sighed. Do you really not want to play, Diana? It was clear he wanted some way out, but still felt guilty about it. I'll try, but that sounds boring. It's not gonna be, I guarantee. Lizzie seemed more determined than ever, and he could only sigh. Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Diana, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. I want to be a professional librarian. I actually was a bit of a dork as a kid. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. And we have to play sports as adults? I mean, keeping a library in check is taxing enough to count as a sport, in my opinion. Yep. But there's other kinds of sports too.
Right?
It isn't the same. What do you think, Diana? Don't those choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? Is there anything else we could be? Like a librarian? Lizzie stomped a foot on the ground. Nope. Come on, just decide already. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Leslie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it for now. You thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Out of all of them, you preferred to play gymnastics. If I wasn't so set on being, you know, a big girl who is comfortable being a big girl, by which I mean a fucking BBW, that was actually something I considered at one point, along with a few other things like clothes designer. But I don't know, I feel like librarian fits someone of my physique a bit better. You couldn't spend the afternoon doing cartwheels and handstands in the backyard. Or if you couldn't spend the afternoon doing those things, then you might as well practice them inside. Arr. There wouldn't be as much space as there was outside, but you could still try. Yes, that was clearly the top option. I agree. I want to be a gymnast.
All right.
How about you, Cove? I'll be a gymnast with Diana. Aww. Just... I happen to know that if you're only friends or disinterested, he'll pick gymnast. Or not gymnast, volleyball. He'll pick volleyball. So the fact that he went with what I picked... Aww. That's adorable. Lizzie threw her hands in the air, making an annoyed sound. You guys can't be the same thing. That's not how it works. You didn't say that. The rule is picking you from the list. You can't keep adding more. Lizzie looked at the two of you, then shook her head, resigned to losing the battle, but not the war. Fine, you're both gymnasts, but you're on the same team because there's only one. Lizzie's... Fuck. Ah. Rah, rah, rah. Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. The Olympic team! What? We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted the glasses on his nose. That's really specific.
Rude.
That's what makes it fun. Anyway, Lizzie marched back and forth in front of the both of you, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all gold medals and people are already calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is. It's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Your team placed at silver. It's more real if we were not all first place. Silver's not bad. Nice. It may not be first place, but you knew that silver medals were still really good to get at the Olympics. But it isn't gold.
Sorry.
Lots of people lose at the Olympics. Them's the breaks. I would argue that even bronze is not losing. Just getting a medal is not... Like, if you get a medal, I would argue that you have not lost at the Olympics. Because there are a lot of freaking competitors. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way! It wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd live as an adult appealed to him, apparently, because he looked back at Lizzie with some of the anger fading. I'm going to live on the beach. Lizzie made a face, poking out her tongue. It's kind of boring, we already have that. No, not like the normal houses here with a street. On it, right on the sand, by the water. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even had a chance to choose where you would want to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a beach with sand and with a bunch of. You can't live on a bunch of sand and shells. Ugh. Werbs. Hashtag werbs. But I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Why are we even playing pretend if we can't imagine anything?
Jeez.
Well, I'm gonna live in a mansion far away from here, far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golf.
It's not fair.
How come you were yelling about mine when your idea is even more impossible? Lizzie's face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her sides. It is not impossible, and it's better than yours. Disagreements always seemed to crop up when the two of them were together, and you always felt like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand this time, you thought... I mean, I personally prefer snow over sun. Cove was right. Cove's idea is good. You shouldn't say yours is the only right one. No one asked for your opinion. Somehow, you agreeing with him made Cove look nervous. He tried to ignore it by continuing his debate with Lizzie. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. We can still swim anytime we want from me, where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything. Says you. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being so unreasonable, you... I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make sense.
Ugh.
It does. You have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you'd said so far had kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a green card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed over to her, hanging onto the hem of her shirt and poking out her tongue at Cove. Lizzie, Diana, it's time to get ready to go.
You alright with that?
Sorry you have to leave already, Cove. Their mommy said she'll walk you home so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go by myself. But...
Bye.
Bye, Diana. There was still a harsh edge to the brief farewell, but you knew it wasn't you he was mad at. Without giving Mom a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and stalked out of the room, shoulders drawn tight.
Huh?
Okay. Worried, Mom turned to look down at you and Lizzie. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? You told the truth. No, Lizzie and Cove kept yelling at each other. They won't stop fighting about everything. Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed, as Mom put both her hands on her hips. Elizabeth! I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced by a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was...
That's enough.
No buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hung her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mom. Good girl. You caught pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. Alright, we better get a move on.
Let's go.
Let's go, kids. Noelani, where did you leave the car keys? I hope I pronounced her name right, because both of the moms are great. Mom hustled you all out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request which music to listen to in the car, but she didn't say a thing. Your parents noticed she wasn't in a mood to be bothered. They gave her space, and Mommy just asked, see what you'd like to listen to. You chose a song you knew Lizzie liked. Maybe that would cheer her up. You were happy to see it brightened her up right away, and she started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. When the car ride was over, you spent the twilight hour watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell she really liked it, so you sat with your moms and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside after being cooped up in the house all day, and you stretched out your legs to let the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping behind the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your moms took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had all been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been a bunch of shouting you hadn't been able to stop, but you could kind of tell that all this helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing escape from silence. Lizzie had been in better spirits now, but the closer you got to your area neighborhood, the more she wiggled in her seat and frowned out the window. She knew what was coming when you all got back home. Clearly she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mom was turning onto your street, then reversing into the driveway. Once she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened their doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off their shoes, she popped her hands on her hips.
So,
Now then, Mr. Holden's car is in his driveway, so we should check back. So he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes. She nodded once. Good, let's move this to the kitchen. Mom went over to the house phone, the rest of you following behind her. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This was only happening because you told on Lizzie. But it was her fault for doing it in the first place. You hadn't done anything wrong by telling the truth. It wasn't like Lizzie was going to say it on her own. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, sullen. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and began to dial. Mom reached over and pressed a button on the base. Suddenly you could hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple of times, then stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening, Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's, Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove?
Absolutely.
Lizzie Shelley? What a surprise! But of course you can say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. You thought hard, and you were sure that your sister had never called Cove's house before. Mom spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff. Nolani, Diana, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. You spoke up to say hello too. Hey, Mr. Holden. The gang's all here, huh? Is something the matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mommy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today. We were hoping that the two of them could talk and make up. Is this a good time for you and Cove?
What?
A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about that when I came home. It does explain the funk he's been in tonight. He chuckled lightly. Despite that, it didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good you didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was some shuffling on the other end. He must not have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove, there's someone on the phone for you. After a beat of silence, there was more muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie called just so she could talk to you.
Are you sure?
Diana's on the other end listening too. Don't you want to say hi? It took a bit of back and forth, though the conversation seemed one-sided since you couldn't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad.
Hi.
Hello? You opened your mouth only for Mommy to catch your eye and shake her head softly. You frowned but didn't say anything. Hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know, Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away.
Sorry.
I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell that she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. Cove must have realized that too because he sighed quietly. I want gold, and I think Diana should win too. Really? You thought you were worth gold even though you hadn't even wanted it? Lizzie was momentarily stunned silent by the demand. She probably forgot that had even happened already. Alright, we all win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. A sense of relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. He wondered if she thought that he'd refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You couldn't see him, but it was obvious Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back to your room if you want. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Diana. You perked up at the mention of your name. You smiled, even if you couldn't see it. Bye, Cove. With that said, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left, since Mr. Holden spoke up.
That's a relief.
All's well that ends well, as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. As Mom replied, Lizzie tugged on Mommy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now too?
Good job.
Sure, sweetie. Thank you very much for apologizing to Cove. Mom flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded her agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to the phone, taking it off the speaker. They continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. You were glad that that was the end of it all. Lizzie and Cove might not get along, and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything was finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your own room with a spring in your step. Oh, elbows. Oh, elbows. We can probably squeeze one more in before taking a break. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon. Not in his cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering in blue. Another reminder of the places he couldn't go. Speaking of blue, I'm blue, dabble dee dabble da, dabble dee dabble do, ba ba dee ba ba do. From what you'd heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Even cut it off himself if he could. You thought about how his summer day, or about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this. with his old house and his mom and dad. But now here he was, and with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. Poor boy. This town wasn't bad, it had all your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you can understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. Mm-hmm. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids.
yeah.
I wish you didn't have a cast. Me too. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Oh no. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Ko's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sand stuff.
Okay.
I never was very good at it. Okay. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all, kind of. You can do anything now. Like, make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine's gonna be a real castle.
Cool.
This is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decide to make... Why is my eye blinking so much? You know what? Back away we go. Other eye. For now. A castle! Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decide to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got it done so fast because they already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of shells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was a... Red bottle cap. It was the best fit for your castle, you decided. And it seemed like the lid from the sports drink that Lizzie was trying to convince your mom to let her try. That girl. So you displayed it front and center, making it into a headlining feature of your whole thing. Pleased with the result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. Shiloh's a good kid. Let's check his. Shiloh was definitely the best one out of all three of you at building sandcastles. His was also the smallest, but there were so many glittering debris and carved sand shapes all over the entire building that his effort was obvious. Shiloh's little house even had a tiny garden by the front and another one in back, all made out of pebbles and other bits and bobs. The silence was then broken. What's on the top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer, discovering something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
It's good, that's smart. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You really know a lot about this. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic. Diana, can I see what you did? Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. The castle you built was pretty impressive, all things considered. It had archways, tall walls, and even a little moat encircling it. You would probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Aww. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the new conversation. Hey Diana, what did you do? It's a castle. Shiloh didn't look so happy anymore. You both built castles?
Yeah.
Aw, that's neat how you guys match. So if we didn't all do it, next time we should. Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered, leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off. Again, there was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he'd notice that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you happen to know what happened when your moms met my dad, Diana? You cocked your head, thinking about it briefly. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Not that you thought about it, or now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued.
Oh.
Well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Diana's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna see what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You'd still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though. Giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. I think Shiloh wants to talk too. Huh? We were talking, just not right now. I'm talking to you, he can listen. Shiloh's expression barely flickered at the words. He still looked put off. Cove continued like the interruption hadn't happened. He was determined to tell the tale. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us, only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make you look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house, where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there. The ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded and stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. What? That's all you wanted to say? Cove's brows wrinkled. Like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh?
That's all that happened. Okay. What is it? What? You said it in a weird way. You're crazy. Cove narrowed his eyes at you, suspicious. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulder.
Well...
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you nor Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment, and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad. He seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but soon you got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove.
Who asked you to come?
It was probably just your dad bugging Diana's family some more, because you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to move past. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too. I was just wondering. Hey, let's build another sandcastle. Today's gonna be over soon. Ah, Diana, you're right. The sun is going down so fast. You all went back here to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least you tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. So you led the way on the path back home. The walk home was quiet. You passed by unfamiliar landmark. The opposite of that. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking. You didn't want to leave it hanging in the air, so you decided to just ask. Why are you making that face?
Oh.
I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red a lot? You were being rude to him. No, I wasn't. It looked like that to me, and it wasn't just saying that one thing. You're not very nice to Shiloh. I didn't mean it like that. Shiloh is kind of weird to talk to. See, that's kind of rude. I guess I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, Diana, was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you met Mr. Holden. Nobody's making me spend time with you. Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just want to make sure it was okay is all.
Thanks.
Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. It's no problem, Cove. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. You hugged Cove goodbye. You stepped forward and wrapped your arms around him tightly. You turned your head, resting your cheek on his shoulder. Cove stood there awkwardly, with his hands at his sides. He wasn't able to return the hug, but you didn't get the impression he was unhappy about it. You were pretty sure it was the opposite. Bye, Cove. See you tomorrow. Yeah, bye, Diana. You pulled away, then jogged towards your house. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around. He waved. You did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It would be terrible if it made him feel bad. What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all. But for now, it was definitely something that you'd keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. Oh, that didn't take nearly as long as I thought. But still. You know what? Sure. Excuse me. Alright, let's do a 20-minute break. Go stretch, grab a snack or a drink if you need either. Take a bio break if you need it. And I will see you all back at 20 till. Which may be a little longer than exactly 20 minutes, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. See you in 20. We're back. Hello. Hello. We are back. Back again. Diana's back. Give her food. Alright, we got a couple of unpleasant ones out of the way, and now there's just fun times.
All right.
Tonight, we're going to catch fireflies. At this blunt declaration from your sister, you looked up from me at your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a familiar sight over the summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. We had fireflies back in Oklahoma. They were pretty. Sorry, something just happened there briefly. Anyway. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. I kind of miss fireflies, actually. Oh, you are you? Yeah! You rocked lightly from side to side in your seat, almost excited for your after-dinner activity. Catching fireflies was a great way to spend a summer evening, and you could already envision the little lightning bugs drifting through the darkened sky. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. Shelley? Shallow tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shallow to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why. Probably more work things. Yeah, that scans. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree.
Well,
It's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Vivian Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while Lee waited there for their response.
There.
Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Your parents exchanged a look, then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes! Along with Lizzie's cheers, you threw your arms up in triumph, but waited until you finished chewing to say anything because you knew it was rude to talk with your mouth full. Unlike Lizzie. Elizabeth.
Fine.
Fine, just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all the poppies, okay?
duh.
Duh, Mom, that's where most of them are. The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy read sometimes. All too quickly, it became a race to see who could finish their food first. No choking at the dinner table now. That's right, if someone died, we'd have to cancel the Firefly trip after all. Mom said it like a joke, but you knew they were both telling you kids to slow down. Shiloh did immediately. When you glanced at Lizzie, you saw her still eating faster than she should. Yep. Elizabeth.
Jeez.
No one is gonna die, sheesh. A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold your sister. I'll get it. Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open, without even looking out the window to see who it was.
Huh?
You shifted in your seat to try and get a glimpse at the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked you to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's flappy hat. That scans. Cove! Diana! Trying to get to the door quickly enough, nearly resulting in your mommy being knocked over. You sent her a sheepish smile, linking your fingers behind your back before focusing your attention on Cove. What are you doing here? A smile played across Cove's face, and you could tell he wanted to laugh. Your eyes met for only a second before he looked away. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like he was considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket. Eyes now dropped to the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks, bye!
Thank you.
Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged and Mom stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Cove shuffled fully inside, eyes remaining on the ground. Mommy closed the door behind him.
Hi.
Hi, Cove. Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening... Oh!
Midnia has brought 9 eager readers to the library.
Hello, everyone! Welcome! Thank you so much for the raid, Minya. Moo! Raid! Hi! How are you all? I was just finishing up the half of step 1 of Our Life Beginnings and Always that I had not gotten around to 2 days ago. Please don't call me miss, I'm only 30. I'm actually a little sensitive about my age. No, you're fine. You're legitimately fine. I'm just a little sensitive about being an old Tran. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was your birthday. Congratulations, or happy birthday, rather. Congratulations. Ooh, mid-20s. You're catching up with me. soon you will be what the kids refer to as an old Tran. Wait, you were trans too, right, Midnia? I forget. You're past 30. Okay. Yes. Soon you will be what the hip kids know as an old Tran. Anyway, I hope you had a good birthday, though. All right. Stretch. Yeah. I didn't do enough stretching during my break. My elbow is still quite stiff. All right. Whatever. Back to actually reading this. After I hydrate, because my throat's getting a little scratchy. Oh no, that's actually kind of embarrassing to have show up after a raid. Maybe ignore the last item on there, if any of y'all look. Anyways, back to actually reading. Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Cove nodded in response. Cove, are you gonna catch fireflies with us? You could see Lizzie eyeing you for mentioning the excursion to an outsider, but she'd get over it. She huffed when you poked your tongue out at her, placing her hands on her hips in annoyance. You should come with us. We'll have a great time.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. Alright. Thank you, Polydot. You too. Oh, thank you for the follow.
Polydot has joined the library.
I've never caught one before. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must not have been anywhere he used to live. That is a lovely cheer emote. I love it. We can't go until after dinner. After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet? My dad and I ate earlier. What'd you have? Eggs. The clipped one-word answer seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended, because your mom came back into the room.
Okay.
Cove, your dad said you can stay for a little while if you'd like, but he's going to come get you before it gets too much later. Sure.
Fun.
Oh, fun. This will be so nice. As you polished off the meal, you hoped it would be too. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside. Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Mom. Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie, he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated at the door. Come on, let's go. After a moment, he did.
Bye.
Bye, children. The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their figures get farther and farther away.
Hurry up!
You're so slow, Diana. We don't have all night. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. You tugged him along. Let's go, you gotta come. You reached out for the arm that wasn't in a cast. You took hold of his wrist and started to pull him along. Cove twisted his arm a bit before settling down. You smiled, watching Cove return it with a shy one of his own. Then the both of you followed after Lizzie and Shiloh. Aww. When you arrived at the hill, Lizzie was already standing on top. The fireflies were out in full force, floating on the breeze, their gentle glow winking in and out and creating an almost magical effect. You looked at Cove and he seemed just as entranced by the beautiful sight. You and Cove stood at the start, linked together. It was almost like holding hands, but not quite. It was a bit too bad somehow. Realizing there wasn't actually any need to continue gripping his arm anymore, you released it.
Wow.
Shiloh took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill. Hi guys, it's really great out, huh? See how many there are? Yeah. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's sea green head. Shiloh couldn't help but giggle. You had to admit it was a pretty funny sight, especially when Cove didn't know it was there. What?
Oh,
Oh, look! Lizzie has one. That's amazing! Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on! Ah! Oh, excuse me, ow, that one actually quite hurt. Oh, a lot of gunk in my lung there. Ugh. I'm so sorry, everyone. That was really gross. Caught me kind of off guard, too. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on. Okay, I already did read all of that. I mean, I was a little bad about getting my hands scratched up as a kid. Spotting one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but when he tried to grab it, his pink cast waved awkwardly through the air, foiling his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. You told him about the firefly you had. Look over here, I've got one, come see. Cove gave one more look in the direction of his lost prize before coming closer and peering at the insect, still crawling around across your palm. You held out your hand, and he leaned closer, eyes widening a tad behind his glasses. Cove remained hypnotized by the little bug as he inched his hand closer to yours. Ultimately, he settled his fingers lightly over top of the ones you were holding open. It tingled. You stayed very still. The last thing you wanted was to accidentally scare the shiny treasure off. His hand looks incredibly big. Like, adult big. Oh hey, it remembered my choice of bracelet from the very start. The firefly, noticing the new connection, crawled up onto Cove's hand. He quietly gasped. It worked! Yeah, you got one. Also, that's supposed to be the hand that has the cast on it. Whatever. I'm sure this was done early in development, and by the time they got far enough in, they were like, well, I don't know. I'm actually not going to try guessing about why his hand is incredibly off-model. Cove's lips turned into a slow smile, and his eyes shined brighter than the bug. Thanks, Diana. Your eyes and his locked together while still holding hands. He suddenly pulled away. Startled by the extreme movement, the tiny light disappeared before you could even blink. Your firefly was gone.
Sorry.
You forgave him. That's okay, I couldn't keep it forever.
You're right.
Right, bugs have to stay outside. Let's get another. You decided to collect more! Uh-huh, we can work together. There is a splatter on my screen. His face broke out into a wide grin. We'll get a bunch. With renewed vigor, you ran out into the hill. You're not sure how much time passed while you were in the thick of it. All you could focus on was the adventure at hand. No critter was safe from your grasp. At first, you tried to keep a tally of how many you had caught, but once the number grew higher than 10, you had no more fingers left to count with. Hey now! I could count higher than 10 at age 8. Come on. Silly writers. You were having the time of your life, racing up and down the hill with the crash of the ocean and the sound of everyone's laughter echoing in the background.
Diana!
This way! You followed the sound of Cove's voice to the top of the hill, watching as he stretched his arms in front of him, reaching with his fingers and only narrowly missing his narrowly missing his target. Cove and you took turns trying to scare fireflies in the direction of the other. So much reading. You showed him some techniques that you had learned, like how to cup your hands correctly, and he listened attentively before trying for himself. There were a few times when you almost ran into each other, giggling as you dove to the side at the last moment. Luckily, disaster was avoided each time. Ooh, I'm sorry. But chicken Alfredo sounds delicious. I wish I had chicken Alfredo around in the library. Whoop. That was weird. Aw, I'm sorry to hear that. Excuse me. It was an overall huge success, with the both of you catching multiple fireflies each. I see. Yeah, that does still sound good. Eventually, the fireflies began to thin out and your energy started to lapse. You decided it was time to call off the hunt. Cove didn't complain. He breathed in heavily and his face seemed really flushed. That was fun. A lot of fun. You smiled at him broadly, happy that he had enjoyed the activity. Yeah, it was.
Come on!
Diana, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race. The shouting caught you off guard. It had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see them both standing on top of the hill again. Lizzie beckoned you with quick hand gestures. If she was like that, you knew there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi.
Cove!
Hi, Cove, you can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. As Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. This was the second time it got in the way tonight. And this wasn't even the first time she had asked him to be a referee for one of her son's races. What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets seated to the bottom first. That's important. Got it?
I guess.
The cast was sturdy. Even if he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have just been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee. But it was already decided. I'll stay with Cove.
Really?
Why? You don't have to. It's okay, I want to watch. You moved beside him on the top of the hill, even though Lizzie eyed you and made a face. That's not how races work. We only need one referee. Shrugging your shoulders, you refused to budge, and Lizzie let out a huff before throwing her hands in the air. Fine, I'll be the winner whether you join or not. Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage viewpoint, and you stood next to him. Count down! Cove stood up a little straighter. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duties seriously. 3, 2, 1, go! Lizzie and Shiloh took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speeds towards the bottom of the hill. You and Cove leaned forward to watch them go, eyes peeled for which of the two could reach the bottom first. They were both neck and neck until about halfway down the hill, Lizzie started to veer off to the side, giving Shiloh a huge advantage. She obviously hadn't noticed a thing, and as soon as Shiloh reached the bottom of the hill, he jumped up excitedly and threw his hands in the air. I won! Almost immediately, he fell back onto the grass, still dizzy from his roll down the hill. Lizzie stomped out of the bush she had ended up in, spluttering angrily and brushing leaves from the front of her dress. Not bad, you got lucky. Let's do it again and see who wins for real. Kids, it's time to come in.
Ugh.
No! You snickered, feeling grateful you hadn't been part of the mini debacle. You caught Cove's eyes and saw that he was doing the same. It had gone late, and it was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills. But the cold in the air didn't dampen anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together side by side down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did. Yeah, cute. And now, for the final moment of step 1. Wah. You'd been brought along to the big park today, which did an excellent job of living up to its title. The park near your house, with its lonely playground equipment, wasn't even a quarter of the size of the expanse of grass and trees that lay before you now. As it was in the next town over and too far for you to walk to by yourself, you didn't get to visit it much, so you soaked up the environment. Another difference between this park and the one in your neighborhood was that this one had visitors other than you, Lizzie, Shiloh, and Cove. Today it was the busiest you'd ever seen it, thanks to a community get-together luring people in from all over the local area with a promise of barbecue and fireworks. Your family and Cove's were just two of many. What seemed like dozens of cars were parked up already when you had arrived. You saw Cove hesitate as he took in the growing gaggle of strangers. By your mommy, Lizzie bounced on the balls of her feet, barely containing her excitement. The crowd made you nervous, but you couldn't avoid coming to the event. Mommy had told you that the people running the community event weren't charging for it, but she wanted them to get something in return. Which is why you'd not been allowed to touch the beautifully iced cupcakes she carried on her lap during the drive over. It was a special treat for them. Every time the car made a turn, she clutched the box tight enough for her knuckles to strain, much to everyone else's amusement. Mr. Holden's contribution to the party, a huge pack of juice boxes, was tucked under his arm after being retrieved from the car's trunk. You bet there had been no such dramatics around that cargo getting here in one piece, but the boxes did lack the beautiful shimmer of Mommy's treasured cupcakes.
Okie dokie.
Everyone all set? Should be. Cove, did you put sunscreen on before we left? Yeah, I always do. You don't have to tell me. Mr. Holden deflated, his attempt at caring for his son rebuffed, but he triumphed with a smile.
Good kid.
I don't want you getting burned, or dehydrated either. It'll be a busy day.
Well,
Don't think there's going to be any risk of that second part. Mom nodded at the tables up ahead, laden with all kinds of food and drink. She was right, there was plenty to go around. The parents headed over, with you, Lizzie, and Cove trailing after them. A bunch of grown-ups were clustering around there, chatting, but you were more intrigued by what was on the tables. Some of it was familiar: chilled meat, sliced vegetables, big bags of chips, but there was a lot that you didn't recognize. Your moms had said you weren't to touch the food until they said it was time to eat. You didn't want to risk getting caught. It'd be bad if you got in trouble before the event had even started. You saw that Mommy and Mr. Holden had deposited the food and drinks they brought. Mommy gave the cupcakes one final worried look before turning to you with a smile. Since that's the topic at hand, how about we freshen up with something to drink? Yeah! That'd be great. Along with the ones out, there was a giant ice cooler on the ground, stuffed full of cans of soda, boxes of juice and milk, as well as bottles of water. Your drink was... Moo. You slurped the creamy milk through the straw until all too soon you were sucking up only air. Your little group took a break while everyone quenched their thirst. Mr. Holden smacked his lip lips, pantomiming enjoyment. That hit the spot, but you guys should go have fun. You can take your stuff with you and join the other kids playing games. Just don't go too far from the tables. We'll be keeping an eye out, so don't even think about sneaking off. We're not going to the other parts of the park today. Lizzie huffed at their comments. They did sound directed at her, but she scanned the surroundings. Nodding her head towards a group of kids, like a general directing their battalion, she pointed the way.
Come on!
Let's go over there! Cove's mouth was downturned as he looked from the parents and the other adults to the new kids, clearly not favoring either option. Fair. But ultimately, he hunched his shoulders and tagged along after Lizzie. You went to play with the other kids too. You followed after Lizzie and Cove, who were waiting for you on the outskirts of the group of parents. Hurry up! You picked up the pace, moving into a jog, but when Lizzie pelted away at full speed, you and Cove had no choice but to break into a run. The other kids were far out in the field. Far out, mate! No. Still, at your speed, it wasn't long until you reached them. As you approached, they turned around to greet the newcomers.
Hi.
I'm Lizzie. That's my little sister Diana. The one with the cast is Cove. Hi. Cove simply lifted a hand in greeting. There was a chorus of hellos and names from the other kids. One of the kids looked to be about Lizzie's age or older. The couple seemed to be the same age as you and Cove, and there was one tiny little thing with his arms folded over his chest. What are you up to? The first kid, a boy with curly black hair and neon green sneakers, who'd introduced himself as Hayden, shrugged as he looked to the others. Not much. The second kid to pipe up, Lisa, had half her face obscured behind the huge glasses she wore. We haven't decided yet. She glanced wistfully over her shoulder. Following her gaze, you saw the spray of water first and heard the shriek of someone as someone got splashed in the face before you spotted the person shooting them. Some people are playing with water guns, but there aren't any left. The smallest kid, Noah, grunted at that. You guessed that was why he was sulking. Spencer, who hadn't said much, patted his shoulder. So that's out. A new kid raced over with a glint in her eyes and her braids streaming behind her. You spotted the plastic orange pistol in her hand too late, when the trigger had already been pressed. Ack! Rude! Hey! Lizzie, who had been caught first, was fuming. Cove wiped the water from his face. You rubbed at your ear, trying to dislodge the water that had pooled there. Watch out, he has a cast! Worried, you looked at Cove's plastered arm. You knew he had to be careful with it around water. It's okay. The girl simply darted off to find more victims, unaffected by your reaction. Yeah, that scans. She didn't mean anything by it. Lizzie tutted, flicking her hair out of her face. The girl not meaning anything by it didn't change the fact that she'd been sprayed. Cove looked similarly unimpressed. Lisa's face lit up as she had an idea. Hey, we should catch her. She won't be able to spray people if she's running away from everybody. Yeah! Cove nodded as the other kids murmured their interest, or lack of it, in the game. Okay. He joined the group of kids in tearing off after the girl with the pistol. Spotting you all over her shoulder, she laughed and shot her pistol in the air. Only a couple of drops squeezed out. She swerved, causing discord within your team as someone new stood on your foot and you collided with Cove's shoulder. Whoops. Cove shot you a smile that gave you a feeling of camaraderie. It's okay. You were closing in on the girl, but you weren't alone. Lizzie's face was set with intent, and the two older kids were hot on her heels too. You moved to the side to let them pass. You didn't want to win this race. With a path clear, Lisa lunged and tackled her friend to the ground. Got her! Panting, she punched the air in triumph, then pushed her glasses back up the bridge of her nose. The girl who had been caught giggled as she got to her feet, brushing strands of grass from her knees. I was expecting that to turn into a dog pile. Smiling, Cove came to a stop at your side. Lizzie whooped with delight, clapping her hands. The boy with the bright sneakers grinned. You're it now. Catch us if you can. Yeah! I'll do it. You won't get away from me. With that, you all dispersed, squealing and laughing as you tried to evade capture. The sour mood from earlier had evaporated entirely, replaced by a light and playful atmosphere. Several rounds later, when most of the kids had taken at least one turn as it, the scent of smoke wafted up to your nose. Caught by surprise, you looked up and found that the brilliant blue of the sky turned orange as the sun sunk down on the horizon. With all the excitement, you'd lost track of time completely. Looking over, you saw people standing over the grills and poking them to life. It was nearly time to eat. Excuse me. We should get over there. I'm so hungry. Our parents are at different spots. Yeah. Bye. It was cool playing.
Yep.
Bye. See you. You waved goodbye to the other group of kids before hurrying over to your parents with Lizzie and Cove. A tickle unfurled in your throat, growing more persistent as you came closer to the source of the smoke. As the three of you approached the tables, your parents spotted you and came to join you halfway. You tried to greet them, but another cough obstructed your words. Whew, that's quite a cough. Are you alright, sweetie? You shook your head. Oh, baby, I'm sorry. The smoke will be gone soon. No one needs to go up to the grills if they don't want to. Just let me know what you need. There was no response from the other two kids here. Please, could you get it for me? Of course. I'm a little bit of a mama's girl. The main thing being served is kebabs. You have whatever you'd like on it. There's different meats and veggies.
Well,
What would you like on yours? Mom is right, there's plenty of options. Chicken. Beef. And peppers. Ooh, and bits of potato. And that's everything. Sounds good to me. The veggies will be good for you. Order given, you waited for your food to be ready. Lizzie headed towards you, having issued her own request. Hi again. I heard what you ordered. I'm getting a chicken kebab with all 3 colors of peppers. Noticing the Cove approach, she turned to him. What are you having?
Why?
Why does it matter? I don't know, I was just asking. I'm getting beef and shrimp with all the vegetables except onions. Lizzie hummed while evaluating his response. I actually do quite like shrimp, but I didn't know that I liked shrimp when I was a wee youngin'. That's okay, I guess, but chicken is definitely the better one. Then you can eat all the chicken. I'm going to. I want some of the chicken too. Oh yeah, I can let you have some still. You're welcome. Lizzie peered over to the grills where the kebabs were being handed out. A growing assortment of kebabs collected in your parents' hands. Coming over. Don't get jealous of mine when you realize you made the wrong choice, Cove. I didn't make the wrong choice. Same to you, Lizzie. She simply stuck her tongue out in retort. The person serving you gave your mommy one final kebab, then your parents moved over to rejoin you. Between them, they were carrying 6 kebabs, one for each of you, including Cove and Mr. Holden. We've got the goods! Cove's daddy is looking for a place we can sit. In the meantime, they began passing out the kebabs to their rightful owners. Lizzie smiled smugly as she received hers. These are pretty big, be careful not to drop it. Try not to poke yourselves with the ends either. Sharper than you might think. Hearing that, you tentatively pushed the tip of the skewer against your finger. It felt like the point of a newly sharpened pencil. Though it didn't hurt your hand, you wouldn't want it scraping the roof of your mouth or jabbing your tongue. Mommy clucked her tongue. It would have been nice if the options were a little easier to manage and less messy to eat, especially for smaller kids. Lonnie, the youngest kid in your group is 8. That's more than old enough. Whoa, that was really weird. My head was upside down there for a second. Ugh. Ugh. There aren't even plates for everyone, so we could set the food down for a second. Alright, that one I'll give you.
True.
That's what you get for the price of free. But we can hack it, right? Lizzie nodded her head vigorously, clutching her kebab like a trophy. Your parents led you back to the tables. It was immediately evident why Mr. Holden had been sent to scout one out. The benches had quickly filled up as people got their food. Mr. Holden was standing over a corner section near the edges of the sitting area. He beckoned your group over to join him. You clambered onto the bench, taking care not to let your kebab slip from your fingers. Cove took a seat next to you. Lizzie took the other side. Your mom passed the final unclaimed kebab to Mr. Holden.
Thank you.
This looks delicious. Thank you for getting us a space out here. Everyone tucked into their food. You gobbled it up eagerly, only partially obstructed by the awkwardness of eating from a skewer. Fair enough. Running around with the other kids had helped you work up an appetite. Mr. Holden, what do you do?
Well,
I do a lot of things. Do you play golf? Only if you count mini golf. One look at Lizzie's stricken face confirmed that she did not. She could enjoy the occasional round at a mini golf place, especially if she had an audience to impress, but your sister took her passion very seriously. Even then, it's been years since I gave it a shot. Mini golf is nice. I also haven't done it in years. Made myself a little sad. Cove groaned at the feeble pun. Mom chuckled. You weren't sure if she was responding to the joke, Cove's annoyance, or Lizzie's offense.
Don't worry about it.
Just as well, she'd be dragging you to the green every other week. That's because I've got dedication. You need a good drive or two to get far. So this is what we're doing, I see. Alright. Mr. Holden nodded, clicking his tongue in appreciation. Cove looked from his father to your sister, lost in the conversation. Outclassed in golf and wit. I don't get it. I wouldn't get it either if I didn't live with her. I have to hear this stuff all the time. You should give real golf a try. Maybe I'll even teach you some tricks. Don't try to change my dad to be more like you. Lizzie gave Cove a dirty look at the accusation. Mommy felt the need to move the topic ahead before it got heated.
Oh, nice.
That's really sweet of you, but I'm sure Mr. Holden is busy. He might not have time for another hobby. Yeah, I don't think I'm made for that. Still, the offer is appreciated.
Why?
Then tell me something you really do already. You just go away every day. I like scuba diving, though with the business, that's more work than play these days. Surfing and reading, snorkeling. You know, I never tried surfing myself, but obviously I like reading. Those are things Cove likes. Mr. Holden exaggeratedly puffed out his chest. What can I say? My boy's got good taste. He takes after his dad in that way. The sun had been setting when you got your food, and by the time you'd finished, night had truly fallen. Your sticky fingers were the only remaining evidence of your meal. Sticky finger! The kebab had been a great combination, more than a sum of its parts. The seasoning of freedom to choose every ingredient yourself was what what made it something to remember. Rising from the table, Mommy held up her water bottle. Okay, now that the food is gone, you've got to wash your hands.
Okay.
Diana, Lizzie, please hold them out. Lizzie complied, coming over and cupping her hands together in front of her. Mommy splashed some water over her fingers, and Lizzie rubbed them together, working off any residue. Here. Mommy passed her a paper towel from her purse, and Lizzie used it to dry off her hands. Your turn, Diana. You readily held your hands out to catch the water. Copying Lizzie, you washed your hands, taking care to clean every crevice between your fingers before wiping them dry. Nearby, Cove had taken his own course of action, wiping his hands, plural, on his pants, and leaving a stain where his fingers had been. Mr. Holden shook his head.
Come on.
Let's clean that off, pal. He scrubbed at the fabric with a scrunched up napkin. Dad, it's not that bad. When everyone was cleaned up, or as clean as they could be with the limited facilities, Mom spoke up.
Let's go.
Let's go make one last check at the coolers and restock on drinks before the fireworks show. Excuse me. No time, we have to get a good spot. Everywhere is gonna be taken. How about I go ahead to save space again? You can meet up with me in the field after getting the drinks. Then I'm going with Cove's dad. I'll find the perfect place.
Okay.
Sure thing, I could use an extra pair of eyes. Mommy shook her head ruefully at Lizzie's even more enthusiastic than usual attitude.
That's fine.
Alright. Me, Cliff, and Lizzie can go find a place to sit. Pam, Cove, and Diana, do you want to go get drinks? Okay. You nodded. As Mommy, Lizzie, and Mr. Holden headed off into the wide open field where the fireworks were being set up, you joined Cove and Mom and me returning to the cooler where you picked up drinks earlier. Even as you approached, you suspected you wouldn't find much in it. Where it had originally been stocked to the brim, it was now half empty. The ice, which had cushioned the drinks and kept them cool, was largely melted, with only a handful of pieces floating like tiny icebergs. Slim pickings. Damn it, ADHD. I just randomly remembered a place out by where I used to live back in Oklahoma named Slim Chickens. They had the greasiest, most grody chicken, but it was still honestly pretty good. If you could get past the fact that the skin would not stay on a single strip. The drinks that remained looked to be balls of plain water, but you caught a glimpse of something more colorful in amongst them. Mom rummaged around in the cooler, excavating a couple of juice boxes from the bottom in the process.
Aha.
Diana, Cove, you can take you one of those if you want. The perks of helping. Oh? Oh? You took a juice box to share and a water bottle for yourself. Cove hesitated, but decided to take a juice box for himself. When you were each loaded up with your chosen drink, plus an extra bottle or two for someone else in the group, Mom's phone started to ring. She juggled the water bottles over into the crook of her arm and looked at the caller. It's Mommy. Hold tight while I get this.
How are you?
Hey, hon. How's it going? Do you find our perfect spot already? She nodded along to the call, punctuated by uh-huhs as Mommy gave her directions. Catching her eye, she gestured toward the grassy area. We've got a place. Come on, we better hurry before the show starts. You and Cove jogged after your mom, who led you through the field and the separate groups of people assembled there, back to the rest of your families.
Hello.
We're here! And we come bearing drinks, though there wasn't much left. The three of you handed over the spare drinks. You held up the extra juice spot. Oh! It didn't mean to share with Cove. Not that I was thinking about that. Excuse me. Bah. Excuse me. I brought this for someone.
How sweet.
You're so thoughtful, Diana. Despite Mommy replying pretty expectantly, there was just one person who made a claim to the extra sweet drink. Can I have it? Okay.
Thank you.
I love you, Diana. Aww. You two are a real pair. Once everyone had been equipped with a drink for the big event, you sat on the grass beside Cove and waited for the magic to begin. Most of the people in the park had taken a seat now, with a few stragglers silhouetted back at the tables in the distance. A few rambunctious kids were still dashing about, but their number was steadily decreasing as their parents called them over and restored order. Someone bearing a cardboard box weaved between the groups, pausing every so often. You nudged Cove and pointed. What are they doing? It looks like they're handing something out, but I can't make out what it is.
What a pickle.
I hope it's not drinks. Mommy chuckled, but Lizzie and Cove were now watching the bestower of mystery goods keenly. Are they gonna come to us too? Mom softly put her hands on top of your sister's shoulders, as if she feared Lizzie might bolt over to the stranger. Lizzie didn't even glance at her, her eyes locked on the potential prize. That does seem like something Lizzie would do. I don't know.
In that case,
We'll have to wait and see. You were intrigued, studying the man with the box closely as he gradually meandered nearer. You could make out that he was handing out small items to most of the groups he stopped at. They seemed too short to be water bottles, but beyond that it remained a mystery. Then the box man made his way to your group. Wow. Evening. I'm handing out dessert. Any takers? There's dessert? Lizzie squealed, hopping up off the ground. The man chuckled. I'm gonna take that as a yes. Ice cream's on the menu, vanilla flavored with a twist of either chocolate or strawberry syrup.
Nice.
None for me though, thanks. Same, but the offer's appreciated. I want chocolate! Can I have strawberry? And strawberry for me too, please. Now you're going to have to make a decision. Chocolate or strawberry? There's only one correct answer. And anyone who says differently, I will fight you. You pulled on your mom's shirt and whispered that you wanted strawberry.
Oh,
And a third strawberry for this one here. Reaching into the box, the man brought out the requested ice creams and tossed them out. It came packaged in a little plastic cup, complete with a wooden spoon stuck to the paper lid. The condensation wet your fingers in a pleasant way.
Thank you.
Kids, are you going to thank the nice man too? There was a chorus of thanks. He cordially nodded and walked off to another group. The man couldn't spend much time with each group, considering how many he had to get to. True enough. You peeled back the tab that covered the ice cream and got right into your unexpected treat. It tasted amazing. Lizzie was definitely enjoying hers. Cove was too. Lizzie munched away happily, but ultimately didn't succeed in monopolizing her attention. Eyes wide, she looked at Mommy and pulled on her pants.
please!
I didn't get strawberry. Can I have some of yours, please?
Of course.
Lizzie cooed with excitement as Mommy presented her with a dollop of the ice cream and syrup mixture. Licking her lips, Lizzie lapped it up. I love alliteration. Mommy, come on now. Lizzie has all the ice cream she needs. She simply laughed and pinched Lizzie's cheek, then dug her spoon in again and held it out to you. I just can't resist. Diana, would you like some of mine? She's already got that flavor! But that's not the same as getting a little extra from your mommy. You accepted the bite. Like I said, I'm a bit of a mommy's girl. You ate the treat being offered, much to Mom's chagrin and Mommy's delight. Cove watched the exchange silently with a blank expression. Mom, on the other hand, shook her head, a fond smile on her face. Well, you better at least give me some, too. You could have gotten your own if you wanted ice cream.
What?
The kids have ice cream already, and they're getting some of yours to boot, and I have nothing. Now is what you decide to be firm? Laughing, Mommy fed some ice cream to your sulking mom. She could never actually follow through with being tough.
There.
All better now? Yes. Oh. Oh, the moms are so precious. I love them so much. Good. How about you, Cliff? Would you like some? No, I'm still okay, but thanks for keeping me in mind. Cove, it's only fair that you get the choice too. Cove shook his head firmly, concentrating on his own cup. Mommy smiled. Okay, as long as no one is feeling left out. Mommy was always so nice to everyone. You looked over at Cove. He was digging into his ice cream, which bore the same pinkish red twirl as your own. Want some of mine? You'll hold your spoon out to him. Glancing up at you, Cove cocked his head at a curious angle.
Huh?
I already have that one. I want to share anyway. Cove looked around bashfully, but nodded nonetheless. You took out a bite of ice cream and held your spoon out to him. After another furtive glance, he nibbled at it. He seemed lost in thought, almost like he was contemplating why he took ice cream he didn't really need.
Oh.
Mommy was gazing at the two of you, her mouth with an open smile, as if she was about to say something else, but Mom tugged on her collar. Don't embarrass them. Too late. Cove didn't appear to hear the exchange. He took the spoon of his own ice cream, excavated some, and held it out for you to eat. You accepted the treat. In the end, that kind of made it pointless. You each just ate the same strawberry ice cream out of different cups. Your mommy did like to say it was the thought that counted, though. Hey, if you're sharing too, I'll take some. You already asked your mom to give you some.
So?
So what? Mine was gonna let you have a bite. You just didn't take it. You shook your head. Lizzie stuck her tongue out at the both of you and turned her attention back to her own cup of ice cream. Then the first fireworks cut through the sky, whistling as it ascended until it hit its crescendo with an explosion. The park flashed as if alight. Squealing, Lizzie leapt to her feet, her forgotten ice cream tumbling to the ground as the fireworks crackled into tiny drops of glitter in the sky. It's starting! Everyone else looked up to the sky as another firework whizzed through the air. With each explosion, Lizzie would jump up into the air. So, autistic, never been super fond of loud noises. Except music. Music is the exception. Loud noises hurt your ears and you covered them. Spotting your discomfort, Mom came to sit behind you. She placed her own hands over your ears, further muffling the cacophony from above. You buried your face in her chest. The noise and the sights were overwhelming. You craved the safety of your bed and its covers, but for now you would get by this way. Mom cradled your head in her arms, cocooning you from the ruckus. The discomfort began to ebb away after the first few minutes of the show. As your racing heartbeat returned to normal, you took comfort in being cared for. Cove shuffled close, his worried eyes lingering on you before darting guiltily away when you met his gaze. Mommy's gaze was on you, then your parents made eye contact. Mom gestured with her hand to silently say that things were fine there. Mommy smiled, then hopped to her feet and joined Lizzie in jumping up in tandem with every crack of a firework. They had a little party together. Aw, that's cute. Mr. Holden watched the fireworks scene impassively. He did smile at you and even gave a thumbs up when when he noticed you looking over. The fireworks continued, but you were not taking in the sights. The show eventually built up to a grand finale that boomed over the park. You let out a deep sigh, proud of yourself for having made it to the end. Excuse me. Though the experience hadn't endeared you to fireworks, you at least felt good that you weren't alone. Lizzie and Mommy gave a final whoop of delight before coming to join you and Mom, embracing you both in a giant family hug. Cove shyly looked on, relieved by the smile that now brightened your face. His dad took the opportunity to ruffle his hair. Cove shook him off, but with a grimace of resignation rather than irritation. Though the sun had gone down long ago, the air on your bare arms was warm. You took in your giddy family, their spirits buoyed by the firework display. Then your new friend and his father, who looked happy in their own quieter way, and smiled. This had been a pretty special night. Ah. And then summer ended. I'll never get tired of that view. You stood beside your moms, Lizzie and Cove, as the five of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You liked to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. Neither did I. Oh no, we are so dull. Let's get out more. You didn't do real magic, Mom. How did you figure that one out?
Duh.
'Cause I know, that's not what real magic looks like. Oh, Lizzie dear, there's all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mommy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. You looked over at Cove, who hadn't said a word since you started home. He didn't look upset, though, just content. You're aware he still hadn't quite warmed up to your parents. Well, we can't sit out here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately let out a groan.
Ugh.
Mom, summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that any other day. You put on your best puppy dog eyes. Oh, don't look at me like that. Like what?
Please.
So we'll have homework and reading to do. We can't do work now, too. I like reading. Lizzie made her case and then stomped her foot in the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that that would add something to the argument. Well...
No, no.
Oh, come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. Mommy leaned in for a hug, and you knew that you were very close to victory.
Okay.
Alright. But as soon as dinner's ready, you lot are coming inside, understood? Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. Cove, dear, you're welcome to join us as well. Yeah! Cove gave a non-committal shrug to your mommy, which you took as an agreement. So much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get the seashell lily bracelet at Tines and Trinkets. Ooh, or maybe the playground. Or the fireflies will probably be coming out, right? You silently made your own plans. Lily had her own ideas of what she wanted to do, but what were you going to do? You glanced over to Cove, considering. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself.
Rude.
Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off in the direction your mothers had gone. Coward! What are you doing? I'm going to my room. I have lots of plans if we want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long, she was disappearing off down the road. Right down the road! Are you going home too, Diana? Cove was leaning towards the beach, and you could tell he wanted to stay out a bit longer. You stayed with Cove. Cove gave you a smile that you couldn't help but return.
Cool.
He made a little gesture that you interpreted as follow me, and then started heading to the waves. Cove knelt down, picking up something you quickly identified as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back, then tossed it out into the water. You were impressed over how far he got it to go. It sailed way out into the sea. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing really. You tilted your head, wondering over the sudden pensive look on his face. Just thinking. About what? Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure he couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face.
It's not fair.
I've had to wear this cast for ages. I can't even swim. How'd you get it? I was jet skiing. Cool! Your jaw had dropped at his answer. You wondered if he had broken his arm doing an awesome move like a loop in the air. Cove looked a little taken aback by your outburst, but after a second he gave a small nod. You thought you spotted his cheeks turning a bit pink. He turned away before you could be sure, though. Aww. He then continued to explain. I crashed. He gestured you to his arm as if to say, and this was the result. It's hard to believe you're allowed to jet ski.
Whoa.
I'm not. Oh. Cove let out a huff, plopping down into the sand. I can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement, regardless of the sudden change in topic. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. That's great. We can sit together during lunch. You'd only ever been to one school, but you were sure that his old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, he did have to make new friends and meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knees as he drew them to his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you took a look at his face, you realized that his eyes were wet.
I want to go home.
Aw, baby boy. The sudden sadness caught you off guard. You were so excited that Cove would be going to your school, it made you feel bad that he was so upset about it. Well, I can walk back with you. Cove shook his head at the offer. No, I want to go back home. Right. Cove wanted to go back to his old home. The one that sat waiting someplace far from here. The one he would bring up whenever he felt this sad. It had been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. You settled back down into the sand, trying to consider what to do. This can be your home. It's a really nice home if you give it a chance. Cove didn't respond to that. He just tightened his arm around his knees, resting his chin on them. You're not going to leave, right? You'll still be around? The question was a little surprising. Of course. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we could go swimming. You were fine with him changing the subject again. It'll be too cold by then. You smiled, so he'd know you were only kidding. Cove smiled, then looked back to the waves. My dad keeps saying I'll get used to everything eventually, that I'd feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. He spared a glance over at Cove and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all, as long as I really do feel better. I can't see it. You could remember a long time ago, when you'd first started going to school. You had absolutely not been okay with the idea of you being away from your parents for most of the day, to listen to strangers tell you what to do, and you sit with kids you'd never met before. Things changing is hard. You held his hand. You're not quite sure what to say to that, so instead you reach out and take hold of Cove's hand. The one closest to you is the one in his cast, so you made sure you are very gentle. As you watched, Cove's eyes got a little misty once more. You got the feeling that they were different tears from the ones from before, though. I hope next summer I'll surf and go exploring and everything will feel like it's supposed to again. Excuse me. You gave Cove a big smile. I hope so too. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. You hoped that Cove would be able to accept this place as his new home. You'd definitely try to help in what ways you could. There were so many wonderful things here Cove probably hadn't even seen yet. Lost in thought, you started a bit when you heard a faint, familiar sound. The sound of your mom shouting your name. You looked over your shoulder, realizing it was probably time for dinner. You were reluctant to move, having enjoyed sitting together, but you were hungry. You stood and dusted the sand off yourself. My mom's calling. It's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked up at you, expression screaming reluctance, yet ultimately, okay. When you smiled, Cove returned with one of his own.
Diana,
Thanks.
thanks.
Oh! Again with doing both bits. It was nice where you were right then. Well, the two of you couldn't stay there in your own little world any longer. You were being called forward. So the both of you ran off toward your house, leaving the waves and summer behind. All right. Oh, I'm gonna have to use cursor for this. Sorry, you can see a non-animated version of my animated cow cursor. Supposed to be more customization options with each step. I don't know if that means more hair options as well. You can never remember. But also, I'm 13 now. What the? Yeah. Blue. Right. Oh, go away. No. Here. I can't see the earrings. Almost clicked on there trying to go back to page 1. Oh, that would have been bad. I mean, not terribly bad. I can go back. But still. Oh. Temporary hairstyle. Temporary hairstyle while I pick earrings. Oh. I need to get my ears pierced. I've been meaning to since before I moved up to New York. Oh. Sure. Scar on my leg. All right. All right. Actually, oh. Damn double-clicking mouse. Ooh, that's kind of cute. Yeah. And relaxed crush, because I started getting a little more nervous as I grew up. And I get lower affection after it's been risen. Relaxed crush. Ooh. Mmm. What do you think, chat? Actually, you know what? There, we can have it as a poll. Oop. And save it. So I'm really glad we actually did manage to complete all of step 1 before the end of the stream. Hydrate. Oh, I really need to. Aftons, you spoil me. Stretch. Posture's good, and heck you. If you end up the only person who votes, I'm gonna be a little sad. We've got more people in here than I usually have. But if those of you in chat don't want to vote in the poll, then that's fine. I'm not gonna force you. So, how are you doing, Aftons, since you're the only one who seems to want to talk? Again, not trying to force others into it. Doing alright? That's good. That's good. Read any good books lately? Play any interesting new games? Eat any nice food? Actually, you did mention that chicken Alfredo earlier. Oh, neat. I have a few physical cards that I got after moving up here. Because I was considering getting back into the physical game, but like, A, there's nobody to play it with. And B, I don't really have my old collection. God, I really hope that wasn't sold off when my mom moved out of our old house. I had some real valuable cards. I'm pretty sure I even had the original shiny Charizard from way back in the day. At least I'm pretty sure it was shiny. Jiminy Christmas! That's ridiculous! Ah. You know, I don't think I actually ever properly knew how to play the game. The card game, rather. And with a startling 1 vote, Both is the winner. Ooh. 2 hairstyles. Hey, he kept his glasses. Sweet. I like hair 1 a bit better, personally. Only 2 shirts. Really? Alright. Wow, those are violent pants. Ooh. I like his glasses. They're honestly kind of cute. Honestly, I feel like this might be a good personality. That said, it's almost time to wrap up. So, just overwrite that. You know what? Since I was so graciously rated earlier, why don't we find someone else to... Oh, wrong scene. Why don't we find someone else to raid? Twitch. Raid channel. Well, let's do what I always do when I raid. and just find someone with certain tags. Alright. Yeah. Oh. Alright. Alright. Slash raid. Alright, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I had a blast, and I hope you did too. I will see you all again on Tuesday, or today's Tuesday. I will see you all again on Thursday for, shoot, what was it? Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. An old fave of mine. Thank you for tuning in, Aftons. And thank all of you for tuning in. I will see you all on Thursday for Digimon. But until then, bon lecture!